Welcome, welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I see more people coming in. Thank you all. How's everybody doing? I see people joining from NYC, Germany, Pakistan. Oh man, you guys are everywhere. I am in North Carolina today and it is cold. So I apparently can't escape the cold anywhere. But I'm super happy to be here, super excited. Give me a thumbs up, give me like a clap if you're feeling good, if you're feeling excited. Today's going to be an amazing workshop. We're going to learn about rapid prototyping. And so, once again, welcome to Rapid Prototyping with AI with Melanie McGee of We Can Code It, CEO and founder. We're really excited to have you here today. My name is Darlise Calix, co-founder of Create Her Fest. So before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone is set up for a great experience. So if you have any questions or run into any issues during the session, feel free to reach out to me directly in the chat. You'll see the chat. A lot of you have already started using it, and I love to see that. So I'll be there the entire time to help out. A quick note about the tools we'll be using today. You'll see a Q&A feature to the right in your toolbar, so feel free to use that to submit questions for our speaker. And if you'd like to share reactions or thoughts, just do the same thing that you just did. Give a clap, give a thumbs up, give us feedback on how things are going. If you're feeling good, maybe you're feeling confused, you give a little question. Hopefully you saw that in the chat. And so we'll keep this fun, we'll keep this interactive, we'll keep this informative. But now I'm thrilled to introduce our amazing speaker today for today's workshop, Melanie McGee.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here today and to lead you through rapid prototyping with AI. I intend for this to be a hands-on workshop. I'm going to drop in some links in the chat right now for some of the tools we will be using, including, and don't worry, you could just get to these as we go through it, but I want to put it here. A couple of the tools include Colab, which is Google's Jupyter Notebook, if you know what that is. And then we're going to be using Claude. However, you can use ChatGPT as well. So your LLM, your choice. I love Claude. However, I will show different things in both ChatGPT and Claude. Yes, me too. Claude's my favorite. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And we are going to walk through. Here we go. Hopefully you can see that. Good, good. And I have my eyes on the chat room here. So if you have a question, feel free to ask it. I might not be able to get to it at that moment, but I'm going to keep my eyes open. So if you do have a question, if there seems to be something that's an issue all around, I can get to it. I will keep my eyes on it. All right, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Mel McGee. I am founder and CEO of We Can Code It. We Can Code It champions social equity through technology. We do this via industry-driven tech education. So perhaps like some of you, when I originally started in tech, I didn't feel invited to the party. So it really, that actually led to eventually years down the road, me starting We Can Code It. And We Can Code It's about to turn 10 years old in just a week. So I'm super excited about that. I started We Can Code It a little bit earlier than that, about 12 years ago, as a volunteer effort. And then people just kept asking me, can you teach me? Can you teach me? Can you teach me? And I said, sure, let's do this. And I switched from my software development company at that time over to tech education. So we have classes, short micro-credential classes, as well as longer boot camps in AI, data analytics, cybersecurity, and software development as well. So I love AI. I love software development, and I hope to share some of my techniques with you in order to figure out how to make things with AI. In the chat, if you don't mind, just tell me what your experience with prompting is. If you are like an expert, you've taken prompt engineering courses, you could say like expert or, middle of the road or beginner. I'd love to hear some of your experiences. However, we will start with some prompt engineering basics here before we go through the actual prompts that I tend to use and how I end up using AI and Google Colab to go ahead and create some quick and useful code. All right. So I've been a developer for close to 30 years now. And I am super excited about, hello, hold on, I'm having go back. Here we go. I'm super excited about what AI allows us to do and how quickly we can iterate through code. It sounds like some of you have some prompting experience. I love it. And if you don't, that's fine. We're going to learn here and or give you a refresher. So first things first, I put some of these links in the chat for you. However, we will primarily be using Claude at claude.ai as our LLM. The model you actually choose is up to you. If you have a free version, the free version's fine. And thank you. Thanks for doing that, Darlise. And then we're going to be using Google Colab. So I love when things are free. Google Colab, if you have a Google account, go ahead and try, while I'm talking, go ahead and on your end of things, try to log in and or sign up for those tools. If not, if you can't get there, you can follow along anyways with what I'm doing on the screen. But I love if you would experiment along with me. Okay. All right. We are going to use first we're going to talk about some essential prompt patterns before we get into it, because this is an important key element of getting the right result. So I want you to look at AI and LLMs, especially large language models, as an engine in a car. It is not the car, and it is certainly not the driver. You are the driver, and you drive and navigate using prompts. So we're going to look at some key techniques in order to get the most out of this vehicle and your LLM here. Let's take a look at the persona pattern. We're going to look at output persona a little bit, chain of thought for sure, and the like. So here we go. So persona pattern is one of those that I never skimp on. 99% of the time when I am prompting a large language model like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, I use what's called the persona pattern. What the persona pattern does is sets up context for your prompt. Why is this important? Well, you could try this one out for yourself if you'd like. I am a farmer in Iowa. Tell me about Apple is going to give you a different result than I'm a software engineer. Tell me about Apple. And to prove it to you, we're going to head over here to ChatGPT, and I'll show you some of these results. I'm a farmer in Iowa. Tell me about Apple. Tells you about apples. They're versatile. They're popular fruits, right? So Iowa has a great climate for growing them, and it goes on and talks about the varieties, growing conditions, etc. Now, what about this? As you might expect, it's going to tell you about Apple as the company. It's telling me about iOS, iPads, Mac OS, etc. Right? Prompt Prompting with the persona pattern will set you up for success. I use it again nearly in every prompt that I type. All right, let's look at another persona. This is the output persona pattern. So you can also shape a large language model's responses by using what's called the output persona pattern. So what I just talked about previously was more of an input, like act as this, act in this role, or as this person. You could do that as well, right? I could say act as Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or whatever person you'd like, or you can say wonderful software developer. That can be your persona as well. Output persona is how you want the LLM to deliver the results. So you could say, deliver it to me. You could say in a language or as a new programmer, etc. And that's essentially the output persona pattern. So when you're querying a large language model, it really does depend on how you phrase things. This is another prompt engineering pattern. It's called different shots: 0 shot, few shot, multi-shot. Basically, think of shots as examples. So the more examples you give in to a large language model, the more it's going to understand what you want from it in return. I'm not going to go too far into any of these, just a big, broad overview to set us up. Then there's chain of thought guiding the LLM. And one way you could do it is simply say, take your time. Let's think this through step by step. You can combine this, and it's very effective when you do combine it with the different few multi-shot examples. But you can also just state it on your own. And some of the latest, greatest models that are coming out are build this in to the engine. So you don't have to say this, but when in doubt, it doesn't hurt to state, take your time, think it through step by step. It could yield positive results that way. All right, so we can prompt AI models to act as seasoned software engineers. We can say build robust code, etc. Has anyone tried this before, creating software? Let me know in the chat. But I often start with something like, as a skilled software engineer, write some Python script. Now, this is a little basic, but this is something you could even try yourself right now. As a skilled software engineer, write some basic Python code or some JavaScript code. I've even done like quick WordPress, had AI build some WordPress plugins for me, essentially, and done it in minutes to help customize things on the site. So you could try that out yourself. And don't worry, we're not going to be sitting on slides for the next 45 minutes. We're going to get into prompting in a moment. However, here is something I do typically use, and we're going to walk through it. This is my prompting style what I tend to do when I am prompting for code. I start with more of a collaborative approach. I keep it simple, and I set the prompt up with the project type, what I'm trying to solve, any of my preferences from technology preferences, any requirements that are must-haves, and any constraints that I have. And then I ask the LLM to help me think it through. So I use a collaborative approach with the LLM. And then I say, I'll give it typically an ideal solution or some sense that I have. And I also typically will say, ask me questions to clarify this one at a time, because I don't want a list of questions being shot out to me. Great. Okay, let's give it a go. Go ahead and let's log into Claude. We're going to log into Claude and we're going to give this a try. So I started my app here. Now I'm going to show you an example of how I made this work. It started with, I'd love you to act as an amazing integrations developer. You could say software developer, who is extremely familiar with books like Atomic Habits. So it's the new year, right? We're all trying to form new habits and get in a good position for the rest of the year. So I figured this would be a fun one to do. And other habit creation and tracking strategies. I want to investigate ideas and then implement those ideas with you regarding a habit tracking app. I'd love to work with you to create it, so please take your time as we start with researching, then move on to design together, and finally code generation. So I'm giving it a good contextual basis here. And then I say, can you help me? Think it through step by step. Ask me any questions one at a time that help guide me in building this solution. I ask it to guide me. I'm putting it in chat, by the way, so if you want to copy and paste it, you can. Can you help me think it through step by step, chain of thought? Ask me any questions one at a time. That will help guide you in building my solution. Note, so now I'm giving it some constraints. I prefer using Python in Google's Colab. Why? Because it's so fast and easy. It's great to iterate in. I don't know if anybody's used it here, but I love iterating on a prototype in Colab. All right, we're going to do it in 1 second. So it starts talking to me about atomic habits and asks me the specific habits I'm looking to track, how frequently I want to track them, right? And say, I want the user to choose this. So I gave control to the user and it says, excellent, we're going to build on that. What kind of data visualization and tracking features? And it gives me all these options. I said, I want all of them. Now, if I weren't so familiar with Claude and I was feeling a little concerned about if this were my first time, I might say, let's just start simple. Let's start with simple check marks for completion. However, I'm pretty familiar with Claude. I felt comfortable using it and saying, let's get them all. It says, great. And I want all the above. Excellent. And it asks me, and it starts saying, since we're using Python with Google Colab, we're going to leverage libraries. It gives me the libraries it's going to leverage. And it starts defining the core feature set based on the information I gave. I mean, I was like, hey, base this off of Atomic Habits, right? So I did give it a background and a base of what I was interested in. And it says, great, we're going to do all this. It gives me all the stuff. It's looking for simple check marks, progress bars, etc. And to make the process easy and satisfying, we will add one-click tracking, multiple view options, achievement milestones, and progress insights. I'm like, yes, I love this. Now, at this point, I could fiddle around with it and saying, no, I don't want this. Yes, I do want this. And we could go back and forth. And I could say, co-create this with me. We're going to try that in a moment. But first, let's just try this iteration of the project out. Before we move forward with the design, it asks me an important question. How do I want to store the data? It gives me options. And it tells me the pros and cons of each option. If it didn't, I might ask it, tell me the pros and cons. And I said, what's the simplest for a prototype? Let's use that. That is one of the strategies I commonly use. I use it in development when I'm starting a new project. I use it here. I use it as an entrepreneur. Minimum viable product. I want to prove that it's going to work before I get fancy. I suggest you do the same. Understand how something works, test it, and then you can start adding features. That is a huge benefit, I think, of having tools like this where you can iterate quickly. I would go for simple. Start with simple. And so it says, great, CSV file. And it says, let's create an outline for this. It does so. And it says, one crucial question before I start writing code. What is the interface you want? Do you want a command line interface? Or do you want something fancier, essentially? Do you want to create a web interface? Keep it simple to start. Give yourself some success before you start pushing boundaries. Command line interface is simpler than a web interface, especially in Google Colab. So I suggest a command line interface to start. It says, great, let's create a command line interface. It runs with Colab. We're going to use Python's built-in libraries, etc. And it even gives me a menu structure. It shows me the visual of what it's considering. I give it feedback. I said, that sounds great. And it asks me, do you want to go for like just daily habit tracking, or do you want me to include weekly or monthly? And I'm like, well, let's start with daily. After we start with daily, we can, add on different features, right? Again, minimum viable product. Keep it simple before you add anything else on. Make sure it works. Test it. Okay, so I said keep it simple. Just start with daily. And then it says, great, here is your initial version. And it opens it up here. Group, I hope you have some code. If you don't, just watch me go for it. We are going to copy this code, and we're going to move over to Google Colab. All right, here we go. You can copy the contents right here. And I'm going to open up in a new browser window, colab.research.google.com. Here you go. Welcome to Colab. It talks here about, it wants us to explore the Gemini API, and I strongly suggest that you go ahead and play with that. Maybe test it out. Thank you for posting that link. However, we're going to jump in with the code we already have and take a look at what Colab is. Colab allows you to write and execute Python code in your browser. You don't need to configure a whole bunch of things. You don't need a powerful computer. You just need a web browser, right? So I love working with this. This is akin to a Jupyter notebook. Anyone familiar with that in Python? This is just like that, but online. So you can create sections that are code and sections that are text. And a really cool thing is that you can copy the file to your Google Drive to save it, right? Wow. And share it with others if you'd like. So I hope you get a chance after this session to really dive into all of the links here. They have a machine learning crash course, all sorts of examples here, but I love learning it, learning it. Sorry, I was reading and talking at the same time. I love using it for prototyping like this. It's very simple. All right, so from here, we're gonna get a file, new notebook. I'm going to make mine in Drive, sure. New notebook, and you'll see in a second, you'll see a new notebook opens up, and I'm going to change the name of it to Rapid Prototyping Project. Whatever you want to call it is fine. All right, here we go. Notice there are code cells and there are text cells. We could create our own notes in here. This is my first Colab project. Smiley face, right? And you can do all sorts of things here. You can link things, you can create comments, etc. All right. So if I put this here, let's say I want to then, I can add some code underneath it if I want. And this is how you do it. You put a plus sign to insert code. If you want to insert text, you can do so here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this cell. This is my first Colab project, and it's even telling me to undo cell deletion, use, and it tells me the shortcut to do it. All right, so it's saying you can generate with AI here or start coding. This is your cell. This is how you run your cell, and you can have cells, as many cells as you'd like in these code blocks. Each cell will allow you to run it independently of other cells. Let me go back to Claude for a moment, and we're going to look here and notice this did it in object-oriented programming for programmers out there, right? And you'll see this class. This is definitely Python. Python is all about tabs and spaces. I'm sorry, I come from like a C background, so I'm like, what is all these? What is all of this? However, no, I think Python's great. But notice we have some import statements up here. You could take these and just put the import statements in a cell, and then make another cell of code and put the rest of the code. You can organize it to your satisfaction, is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to copy this whole shebang here, and then we're going to review it though. So let me just copy the whole thing, and I'm going to plop it all into one cell. Not super neat or organized, but it is what it is. And we're going to go over the pros and cons of using multiple cells versus one big single cell. Right now, we're using one big single cell. Let's take a quick look. All right, we're importing some libraries. There's pandas, matplotlib, etc. Okay, so date time, etc. And then it goes into this class, and I called this, it called this class habit tracker. We're creating a habit tracking application. And here it's creating a CSV file if it doesn't exist, and then adding habits. So you'll see all these function or method definitions here. All right, that you can get into. There's some print statements. Here's a visualization. And then here is our main method. Okay, and you'll see some options. And then it's saying, hey, run the main, run the main. All right. So it's all here. I hope you have something similar on your end. Ready? Shall we run it? Let's test it out. How do we run it? See this little play sign to the left of your cell. Click it. You'll see it. Oops, let me zoom back out. You'll see the dashes sort of look like they're rotating. It means it's working. Here we go. And it's running. It's running. We could stop it if we want to, but it's interacting with us right now. It's like a command line app, right? So it's saying habit tracker, add new habit, track today's habits, view progress, list all habits, exit. Before we call this a success for initial iteration, yeah, that's right. Let's test it. Any of your choice, 1 through 5. Enter habit name. What should we do? Should we run? Running. And a description. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I run. I like running, but I live in a very cold climate. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, in the States. The other week, it was -7 Fahrenheit. Yikes, very cold. So in the winter, I always slow down on my running habit. And then always at the new year, yes, -7. Yep. So always, and I love running outside, and I call the treadmill the dreadmill. Okay, dislike it a lot. So I'm always pushing myself at this point in time. So right now, I'm going to say walk or run on. It doesn't mean I don't care. Treadmill or outside. I'd so much prefer outside. 5 times per week. Good? It's good enough for me. Yay. Okay. So now it's asking me again. Add a new habit? Sure. Let's add another one. Gosh, which of this one? How about gratitude? Should we do, or, okay. Yeah. I'll just call it give thanks. Because I do gratitude journaling. I'm just going to say give thanks. And I'm going to say every morning, list 3 things I'm thankful for. Right? Okay. Okay. So now we have the options: add a new habit, track today's habits, view progress, list all. Let's go ahead and hit 4. List all. See what's going on. Yes. Here we go. It's working. It's working. Now let's test out track today's habits too. I haven't run yet. I'm going to have to walk. Okay, so it says enter habit ID to track. I'll say running. And it said, did you complete this habit today? Yes. Yay. And then let's go 3, view progress, and running, and give thanks. Now this one needs some help. Your habits, habit ID, 0 and 1. I think that could, let's see. Enter habit ID to view progress. Oh, did I speak too soon? 0. And we have an error. Yes, this is when we celebrate, because we're going to learn how to overcome errors. It will happen. Errors will happen, especially because large language models have a cutoff date, and that anything you're trying to integrate with is going to be adding new features, and the 2 won't meet. You're going to have a place where you get to a point where you're like, man, what's going on? All right. So let's deal with this error. We have an index error. Okay. We have an index error. So it's out of bounds. We have a fence post error. Woohoo. All right. This is, you have to be excited about errors. It means we're learning and we're getting somewhere. So let's go ahead and explain our error. We can use Colab, and Google's Gemini is right built in here to work on the error, or we can pop it in Claude. Let's see what Gemini has to say about it. It wants me to update my my method show progress here. And let's see what Claude says, right? So here, if we want to pop it in Claude, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this, and I'm going to move back over to Claude, and I'm going to say, whoa. Now I'm going to tell it I have an error. Okay, it worked there. I'm going to say, I have an error. See below. And then I always do this. It's not going to matter in Claude. It's going to say pasted text. And then it did paste it here. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Let's see what it does. I'll close this out. It says, we need to add error handling for invalid habit IDs. Well, I think it might be a little bit more than that, but that's all right. And it's going to hopefully generate a new version here, but keep the old version. Look down here, version 3 of 3. You can click back and forth through different versions. That's very handy in Claude. Oh, I'd like meditation is anybody doing that as a habit? Okay, so it wants us to add error tracking. It said, I've made 3 important changes. I added validation, I added error handling when tracking habits, and I added error handling when viewing progress. Now, when you enter an invalid habit ID like 0 or any non-existent ID, you'll get a clear message. Instead of an exception, you want me, would you like to test it? After confirming it works, we can move on, right? So let's go ahead and we're just gonna grab the latest version. We are gonna copy the full-blown contents and we're gonna pop over back to our Colab here. We could have also just changed it from here by copying this code, but I wanted to keep Claude updated with what I was doing so I can continue to work in Claude. That is why I chose to use Claude for the error handling and figuring that out. All right, so notice now code execution stopped in Colab. Notice that if I highlight this, first of all, it's red, right? Error, red. It says it has a little information button here. It shows that there's an error and it's showing me where the error is. It's right here. It gives, well, no, I don't want Grammarly. Okay, let's copy the whole thing. This shows you had an error in this cell. We're going to go back up to the top. This is the cell that we input. This is the output, right? So let's come up here. I'm just going to go Control V and paste the new code in here, and I can run it again. Let's try it again. Let's add a new habit. We're going to try meditation and meditate. All right. All right, good. Let's go ahead and we're going to track today's habits. Oops, I didn't do that. We're going to add running too. Okay, there we go. We are going to track today's habits too. And I'm going to scroll down. We're going to look at, oh, it saved the old results. That's really positive. So let's go ahead. It has running twice now. We're going to go ahead and say, habit ID of 3. See, I added the index of 0 versus the ID of 1 last time. Yes, I completed it. And let's go ahead and view progress 3. And we're going to say habit ID of 1, not 0 for running. And cool, we have our 1-day streak with our graph. Pretty nice. Let's go ahead and try that again, and let's give it a 0 to see what happens when we go out of bounds. All right, view progress. We're going to enter habit. Let's try this again. 3 for view progress. Enter habit ID. Let's give it a 0. So we're trying to go out of bounds. We can also say 10, and let's see what happens. Beautiful. Now we have proper error handling involved. We could go back and forth from here to continue iterating on the app. So I just saw a question. What limitations have you found building applications with LLMs like Claude? Great question. The biggest limitation is that, they do have cutoff dates, right? So depending on which LLM it is and which model it is and which subscription plan you have, etc. The large language model will have its information stop at some point in time. It won't just be like latest and greatest necessarily. So I recently created a video of and put it on YouTube. So if you have a chance, take a look at my YouTube channel. It's at Mel McGee Tech, TECH. And it's code along with AI and me, and we use Claude. And I was iterating through all of the videos on my Google Drive, and there were thousands of videos, thousands. And I was looking for, I was searching for transcripts through these videos to look for specific text. And it was challenging because Zoom had updated its API. And so I had to point it in the right direction. Remember that if it is out of sync with an API, for example, you can copy the API and add it as an attachment, or copy any of the, the new API notes or features and put it into the large language model as attachments. But that is the biggest issue I have run into. I have also run into issues when I am going all out. Just like if you're a coder and you start coding, and instead of iterating step by step, sort of scientifically, right, testing each new change, and you just go and throw it all at once, sometimes it creates a mess. You don't know. Same with the AI help. It could have changed 5 things at once, messed all 5 things of them up, or 2 out of the 5, and you're trying to figure out what it messed up. So, small, simple changes. You can even direct the large language model to make changes like that in single step-by-step iterations. But it is wonderful to have versions down here that you can iterate through. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and say, this is great. Let's add another feature. You can ask it, you can say, give me a suggestion, or you can tell it what you want. What do you suggest based on atomic habits, right? So let's see what it suggests. Link a new habit to existing ones. So after current habit, I will have new habit. Here's the new habit stacking feature. And it tells you different options and which would be of interest and the like. Great. Before I continue with this, I would love to show you how to go ahead and save this. So with any of these collabs, first of all, notice since it's running in real time here, right? So it is still working. If I wanted to exit the app, all you have to do is click stop, right? Another thing I want to show you while I have you is if you're having another issue you might have could be that certain parts of the code are working where others are not. And if you've ever used an IDE for code, you might have highlighted certain aspects and just run those code blocks. How you might do it here in Colab is create another cell. So let's say I want to take the import statements out, and I'm going to put it in, we're going to put it here instead. And then look, you can move the cell up and down here, so you can rearrange cells, but then I can run this independently of this class, right? So you can break apart, your different functions, different import statements, etc., from the rest of the code and run them one at a time if you'd like. And then you can also test those different areas too, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm seeing that we have about 10 minutes here. I know that was just a brief introduction, but hopefully it will help guide you to creating your own apps using Claude or ChatGPT. I just happen to like Claude a lot when I'm coding. There are other platforms. You can use something called Cursor AI to develop, etc. And oops, I see an issue here. My Colab ran the first time, but gave an error. Now it's not running. How many cells can you run in the software? You can run a whole bunch of cells. It will go, think procedurally here. I would run First of all, I would try to find the error and go ahead and try to, if there is not a link here to investigate the error, copy it here straight from Colab and put it right back into Claude and say, help, I have an error, help me figure it out, right? If it's getting confusing and you have a lot of cells, again, yes, break them up into individual areas. So how many can you have? As many as you want, right? Cell, 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 cell. And then you could say, you can even tell Claude, can you break this up for me? Let's do this. None. Can you break up the code for me in logical areas for use in cells? Colab's cells. Let's see what it does. So this might help you out too. And it's generating it. There you go. So cell 1, import dependencies. Great. Cell 2, habit tracker class definition. Cell 3, habit management methods. Cell 4, habit tracker class tracking methods. So it's doing it in logical cells. So if you have problems like that, highly recommend doing this and keeping yourself a little bit organized. Then you can start at the top, copy these in order. Cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, cell 4, cell 5. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to copy and paste. You can also just click up here, copy. We're back in rapid prototyping. We have this here. I'm just going to do it again, right? Cell 2 is right here. We're going to go back to Claude, copy cell 2, move it over here, paste it. Go to cell 3, go back to Claude, copy it here, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Follow along. Now, how do you run it? Start at the top. You'll see a little green checkbox if it ran successfully. Good. Let's do the next cell. Run this. Great. There's no output. It's just storing this information in this session for you. So it's going, okay, here's my class. Let's run the next one. Run it. Oh, error here. And we can look for the error. It's like it's because of Python. All right. So Python, if you're familiar with Python, it is all about indentation, and it says indentation error. Unindent does not match any outer. Okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead. If you run into this, okay, that worked once I dealt with the indentation. If you're not familiar with Python, that is something you probably want to learn Python instead of like the curly brackets and JavaScript or any C-based language like Java, C#, things like this. Python uses tabs, spaces, etc., indentations to organize itself into definitions and the like. All right. All right, everybody. It is 3:52. What other, well, hello. I'm just curious if there are other questions I can answer for you. I hope that helped. Yay.
Yeah, just a quick note. Yeah, if you do have questions, y'all, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. And we have a couple minutes left with Mel, so definitely ask any questions that you have. Fill out the survey. Let us know how she's doing. One question I do have is along the same lines of like the limitations of using LLMs for creating applications. What have been interesting use cases? Like where does this end? You know what I mean? Like, what can you build with LLM?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have been working with smaller applications. However, I have built things, and I'm curious what the audience has built too. I have built things like I mentioned this video. I've searched my whole Google Drive for every thousands of videos for any word I wanted to search on. So I was looking, and what inspired me for that particular application was I had a graduate who was like, hey, what happened to my demo day video? And this was, she had a demo day video, which was showing off her final project from class. And wow, it was in those thousands of videos. And right, I'm not like, I'm searching, it wasn't in the title. It was a video. So I had to ensure that I said, hey, check on my videos, use Whisper, which is, I think it's OpenAI's Whisper is the transcription app to read along and look at the transcripts and create an interface for me to search on this and help me so I can search and find my graduate's demo day video. And it did. It was excellent. It took me less than an hour. And of course, I had a few things that I bumped up against, but that was a wonderful application. I also needed a quick plugin for WordPress for a payment method that was sort of like an invoice payment method, but I had little special considerations that were needed. I mean, I honestly did it in, I'm thinking 10 minutes, and I had it uploaded to the site. I'm like, wow, okay, this is great. So just a couple of use cases there. Again, if you go to youtube.com, it's a brand new channel. I need followers. I promise I'll create more videos, but it's at Mel McGee Tech.
I'm dropping it in the chat again, just for anyone who missed it.
Yep. Thank you. And there's a code along with me kind of video, and it goes through that that application I was telling you about with the searching for my graduates' videos. So hopefully that one will help.
That's amazing. Thanks for answering that question. Along the lines of Karen is saying in the chat, as a beginner, this is kind of like really opening her eyes in terms of, the capabilities. How much would you say you have to know from the engineering front to be able to really utilize these LLMs to the best of their ability in terms of you want to build something, maybe you're not quite there yet in your software engineering journey. Can you be a beginner and create this stuff?
You know what? Okay, it is easier. Of course, it's easier when you know how to program.
Right.
Because you can say, no, I want to, you first of all, you know what's available. However, beginners, fear not, because you can use this as a learning tool as well. Mm-hmm. And you can ask your LLM for suggestions, right? So I'm thinking of, making this code really easy to I want to create a prototype. What do you suggest? What tools are online? What do you suggest I do that is easy for a beginner, Claude? Mm-hmm. Oh, I suggest using Google Colab, or I suggest using AppScript. I've created many an AppScript application using similar tools and the like. So don't fret if you're a beginner. Just keep questions going one at a time, act in a collaborative way with the LLM, and use your prompt engineering, guidelines there. I did create this document. I linked it way up.
Yeah, that's super
way up. Like when I first popped on. I'm happy to share it. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, Mel McGee is linkedin.com/in/Mel McGee, MCGEE. Connect with me. And if you didn't grab this, I'm happy to send it to you. And I'm happy to send other resources as well. But this gives some understanding of my approach to prompting LLMs and working with LLMs when creating software or prototypes like this.
Love that. Thank you so much. 2 minutes left. What advice would you give for those who may be participating in the next phases of Creator Fest with the Ideathon and the Hackathon coming up? They have days. For this prototyping, and they want to build something great. They want to compete. What advice can you give to those who are participating?
Okay, so those who are participating, and looking for from a technology standpoint about prototyping, again, start with your minimum viable product. Always have a working version. Always have a working version before you move over to your next version, because you know what happens, right? Murphy's Law. You're going to go in, you're going to get ready to go, and your last version's going to blow up. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, I lost everything. All of those days are for naught, right? Now, keep a backup. Even if you don't know how to use like GitHub or anything like that. If you know how to use GitHub, use GitHub and the like. If you don't know how to use GitHub, how about saving those iterations? You could do that like in Claude. You saw that it had version 1, version 2, version 3, so you can go back and forth. Other things you can do is in Colab, you can say file, save, right? You can keep saving copy in Drive, right? Or you can make a GitHub gist or save a copy in GitHub. But at the end of the day, I think most people know how to save things in Google Drive. Just do that. At the very least, copy and paste it into something on your computer and version it, right? Or date it, time it, right? So yeah, that is my biggest piece of advice, because if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. Also, positive attitude, confidence will get you very far, and be proud of yourselves. Wow, just doing this. Congrats, everybody.
Congrats in advance. Congrats for showing up, honestly, and participating even in this workshop. That was already a huge and major step.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for this workshop. This has been amazing. I'm excited to see what people build, given all of this amazing information. For anyone who isn't registered formally for Create Her Fest, go ahead and register at createherfest.com. We have some exciting things coming up. February's content is going to look amazing. And then we go right into our Ideathon and Hackathon. So if you're looking to compete, if you're looking to implement a lot of the things that you're learning, that's going to be the time. So thank you so much, Melanie. And thank you so much, everyone. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.